Confidence, that belief in yourself, that inner knowing that you can take on the challenges of life, face the difficulties, and still keep moving forward. Confidence is not always easy to come by. In fact, for most of us, it takes time, effort, and a lot of trial and error to build. It's a process, a journey, and sometimes, without even realizing it, we sabotage ourselves along the way. We make mistakes that slowly chip away at our confidence, often without recognizing it. You see, it's not usually the big events that erode our confidence. No, it's the little things. It's the subtle habits, the quiet choices, and the mental traps we fall into day after day. And these seemingly small missteps can accumulate over time, leaving us feeling uncertain, insecure, and far less capable than we truly are. But here's the good news. These mistakes are fixable, every single one of them. If we can identify them, we can address them, and we can start turning the tide. Over time, I've put together 8 of the most common mistakes people make that can ruin their confidence. These are mistakes I've seen over and over again, whether in my own life, in the lives of people I've worked with, or in stories from countless others. So, as we go through each of these, I want you to keep an open mind. Ask yourself if you might be making one or more of these mistakes, even unconsciously. And remember, awareness is the first step to change. Once we see the problem clearly, we're already halfway toward the solution. Here's mistake number 1, comparing yourself to others. This is probably one of the most common mistakes that I see, and it's so easy to fall into this trap. We look around at the people in our lives, and what do? We start comparing. We measure our lives against theirs, and almost inevitably, we come up short. We say to ourselves, why aren't I as successful as they are? Why don't I have what they have? But here's the thing. You're never seeing the full picture. You're only seeing the surface. And when you compare your inner life, your struggles, your challenges, your insecurities to someone else's outer life, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. You don't see the battles they've fought. You don't know the sacrifices they've made. You don't know what they've gone through to get where they are. All you see is the result, and you're comparing it to your journey, which is still unfolding. Comparison is a confidence killer. It's a thief that sneaks into your mind and robs you of your self-worth. It tells you that you're not enough, that you don't measure up, and that you'll never be as good as someone else. But here's what I've learned. Your journey is unique. Your path is yours alone, and it can't be compared to anyone else's. When you spend your time focusing on what someone else has, you lose sight of what you're building. You lose sight of your own strengths, your own progress, and the things that make you special. One of the best ways to break the habit of comparison is to turn your focus inward. Instead of measuring yourself against others, measure yourself against where you were yesterday. Ask yourself, am I growing? Am I improving? Am I moving in the direction of my goals? If the answer is yes, then you're on the right track, and that's all that matters. Your only competition is yourself. You see, we're all at different stages in life. You might be looking at someone who's been working at their craft for 10 years, and you've only just started. It's not fair to compare their chapter 20 to your chapter 2. You've got your own story to write, and it's going to unfold in its own time. Be patient with yourself. So, here's my challenge to you. The next time you catch yourself comparing your life to someone else's, stop. And remind yourself of this truth. You are on your own journey. Their success doesn't take away from your potential. Their accomplishments don't diminish your value. Focus on your growth, your path, and what you're creating. That's where true confidence comes from. Next, you have to stop seeking approval from others. It's part of human nature. We want to be liked. We want to fit in. We want to be accepted. But when your sense of self-worth is tied to the opinions of others, you're walking on shaky ground. You're giving away your power. And I'm telling you, nothing erodes confidence faster than constantly looking outside yourself for validation. Every time you rely on someone else's opinion to feel good about yourself, you're giving them control over how you feel. If they approve of you, you're on top of the world. But what happens when they don't? What happens when you don't get that pat on the back or the praise you were hoping for? Suddenly, you start to question yourself. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not doing things right. And there it goes. Your confidence takes a hit. You see, the problem with seeking approval is that it's never enough. Even if you get it, it's fleeting. It doesn't last. You might feel great for a moment, but then you're right back to square one, needing that next dose of validation. It becomes a cycle, a dependency, and over time, it chips away at your sense of who you are. Because if your worth is based on what others think, what happens when their opinions change? What happens when the applause stops? You lose your footing. Now, don't get me wrong. Feedback and constructive criticism are valuable. I'm not saying you should ignore the insights of others, but there's a big difference between seeking feedback to grow and seeking approval to feel worthy. And when you're constantly chasing approval, you're not living authentically. You're not being true to yourself. Instead, you're bending and twisting to fit into what you think others want you to be. And that's exhausting. It's a never-ending chase that leads nowhere. One of the most liberating things you can do for your confidence is to stop needing everyone's approval. Not everyone is going to like you. Not everyone is going to agree with you. And that's okay. In fact, it's more than okay. It's normal. You can't please everyone, and you shouldn't try to. What matters is that you're living in alignment with your values, your goals, and your truth. When you do that, you start to build a foundation of confidence that's unshakable because it's not dependent on anyone else. Early in my career, I had a lot of people telling me what I should do, how I should speak, how I should run my business. And for a while, I listened. I tried to follow their advice because I thought, well, they must know better than I do. But you know what happened? I lost my voice. I started to feel disconnected from my own message because I was so focused on trying to please everyone around me. It wasn't until I stopped seeking approval and started trusting myself that things really began to change. That's when my business took off, my confidence grew, and I began to connect with people in a much deeper way. Not because I was trying to get them to like me, but because I was being myself. I was being authentic. So here's the key takeaway. Stop giving others the power to determine your worth. Approval is nice, but it's not necessary. You have to approve of yourself first. You have to be the one who decides that you're good enough, that you're capable, that you're worthy. And when you do that, something amazing happens. You start to attract the right people. The ones who see you for who you truly are, who appreciate you without you having to chase after their approval. Confidence is an inside job. It comes from knowing who you are and being okay with it, regardless of what others think. It comes from standing firm in your own shoes and saying, this is who I am, and that's enough. So the next time you catch yourself seeking approval, stop and ask yourself, why do I need this? What am I trying to prove? And then remind yourself, You don't need anyone's permission to be yourself. You're already enough, just as you are. Next, stop talking bad about yourself. We all have that voice in our heads. Some people call it the inner critic. Others might just call it their thoughts. But here's the truth. That voice, if left unchecked, can be one of the most damaging things to your confidence. The way you talk to yourself, the words you use, and the thoughts you entertain have a massive impact on how you feel about yourself. How often do you catch yourself saying things like, "I'm not good enough. I always mess things up," or "Why can't I ever get it right?" Maybe you don't say them out loud, but if those thoughts are running through your mind, they're quietly eroding your self-esteem. And over time, these small, seemingly harmless phrases start to shape your identity. You start to believe them. You see, the mind is a powerful thing. It believes what you tell it. If you feed it negative thoughts, it will start to look for evidence to back them up. It's like programming a computer. You input negative data, and you get negative output. But here's the good news. You can reprogram it. You can change the script. But first, you have to be aware of what you're telling yourself on a daily basis. Because it's happening in the privacy of your own mind, you might think it's not that big of a deal. But make no mistake, it is. That internal dialogue is shaping your confidence, for better or for worse. Now, one of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking that if they're hard on themselves, it will somehow motivate them to do better. They think, if I criticize myself enough, I'll push myself to improve. But that couldn't be further from the truth. All that negative self-talk does is beat you down. It makes you feel smaller, weaker, and less capable. And over time, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You start to live out the very things you've been telling yourself. Ask yourself, would you ever speak to a friend the way you speak to yourself? Would you ever look at someone you care about and say, "You're such a failure. You'll never get it right"? Of course not. So why do we think it's okay to speak to ourselves that way? If anything, we need to be kinder, more supportive, and more encouraging to ourselves than anyone else. Because at the end of the day, you're with yourself 24 hours a day. If you're not on your own side, who will be? Here's a simple exercise to help shift that negative self-talk. The next time you catch yourself saying something negative about yourself, stop and ask, is this really true? Is this fact? Or is it just a thought? Often you'll find that it's just a thought, a fleeting moment of doubt, not a hard fact about who you are. And then replace that thought with something more positive, or at least neutral. For example, instead of saying, "I always mess up," you could say, "Sometimes things don't go as planned, but I'm learning and getting better every day." It might feel strange at first, but the more you practice this, the more you'll start to change the way you talk to yourself. And when you change the way you talk to yourself, you change the way you feel about yourself. When you believe in yourself, your actions follow suit. So, my challenge to you is this. Pay attention to your inner dialogue. Start catching those negative thoughts as soon as they arise and consciously replace them with something better. It doesn't have to be overly positive or unrealistic, just something that builds you up rather than tears you down. Confidence begins in the mind, and the words you choose can either lift you higher or drag you lower. Choose wisely. Next, the fear of failure. This may be the worst mistake. The fear of failure. It's something that every one of us has experienced at some point. It's that little voice in your head that says, what if I try and it doesn't work? What if I fail? What if I make a fool of myself? And so, what do? We hold back. We don't give it our all, we play it safe, and we stick to what's comfortable. And while we might avoid the sting of failure in the short term, we also miss out on the growth, the learning, and the opportunities that come from stepping outside of our comfort zones. Here's what I've learned. The fear of failure is one of the biggest confidence killers because it paralyzes you. It keeps you stuck. It makes you second guess yourself before you even start. And over time, if you give into that fear, you start to believe that you're not capable. You start to shrink your vision, lower your goals, and settle for less than you're capable of. And that does a number on your confidence because deep down, you know you're not living up to your potential. The problem with fearing failure is that it makes you focus on the wrong thing. You see, failure isn't the enemy. In fact, failure is a part of the process. It's something we all go through on the way to success. But when you're afraid of failing, you start to see failure as a reflection of your worth. You start to think, if I fail, that means I'm not good enough. But I'm telling you, failure doesn't define you. It's what you do after the failure that matters. It's how you pick yourself up, learn from the experience, and keep moving forward. Here's the thing about failure. It's not permanent. It's just a moment in time. But if you let the fear of failure keep you from trying, that missed opportunity can be permanent. And missed opportunities chip away at your confidence far more than failure ever could. When you look back and think, I could have done that, but I didn't because I was afraid, that's when regret starts to set in. And regret is far worse than failure because it's something you carry with you. But when you try, even if you fail, you know you gave it your best shot. You know you stepped up to the plate. And that alone builds confidence. Now here's a shift I want you to make when it comes to failure. Instead of asking, what if I fail? Start asking, what if I succeed? You see, the mind will always try to protect you from perceived danger. And failure feels like a threat to the mind. But what if instead of focusing on the worst case scenario, you start focusing on the best case scenario? What if things go right? What if this attempt leads to your next big breakthrough? Shifting your focus in this way opens up new possibilities and allows you to move forward with courage rather than hesitation. One of my mentors once told me, you've got to fail your way to success. At the time, I didn't fully understand what he meant, but now I do. He wasn't telling me to go out and purposely fail, but rather to embrace failure as part of the process. You can't succeed without it. And every failure brings you one step closer to where you want to be. The problem is, too many people are so afraid of the discomfort of failure that they never even start. But here's the truth. The discomfort of failure is temporary, but the rewards of persistence are long-lasting. So how do you overcome the fear of failure? By taking action. That's right. Action is the antidote to fear. The more you do, the more you try, the less power fear has over you. You realize that even when things don't go as planned, it's not the end of the world. You're still standing, you're still learning, and you're still growing. And that builds confidence. Confidence doesn't come from never failing. It comes from knowing that even when you fail, you have the ability to get back up and try again. So here's my challenge to you. The next time you feel that fear of failure creeping in, remember this. Failure is not the enemy. Fear is. Don't let fear hold you back from going after what you want. Take action. Embrace the lessons in failure. And know that every time you do, you're building a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. That's where true confidence comes from. Not from avoiding failure, but from knowing you can handle it when it comes. Next, you can't keep hanging out with the wrong people. Now, this is one of those mistakes that can sneak up on you because it's not always obvious at first. But I'm telling you, who you spend your time with can either build you up or tear you down. It's one of the greatest influences on your confidence. If you surround yourself with people who constantly criticize, doubt, or discourage you, it won't take long before you start doubting yourself. On the other hand, if you're around people who uplift, encourage, and challenge you to be your best, your confidence will grow naturally. So the question is, who are you spending your time with? You see, confidence is like a garden. It needs the right environment to grow. If you plant seeds in poor soil, they won't thrive, no matter how much potential they have. But if you plant them in rich, nourishing soil, they'll grow strong and flourish. The people you surround yourself with are like that soil. If they're constantly negative, judgmental, or unsupportive, it's like trying to grow in rocky, barren ground. But if they're positive, supportive, and encouraging, they provide the fertile environment your confidence needs to thrive. One of the biggest mistakes people make is holding on to toxic relationships out of habit or fear of change. These relationships can slowly chip away at your confidence, leaving you feeling drained and uncertain. I'm not saying you have to cut people out of your life entirely, but you do need to set boundaries. You need to be selective about who gets access to your energy, your time, and your thoughts. If someone is constantly bringing you down, it's time to limit their influence on your life. Surround yourself with people who believe in you, who see your potential, and who want to see you succeed. When you have people like that in your corner, your confidence will soar. They remind you of your strengths, especially when you're having a hard time seeing them yourself. Let me tell you about a man who changed me. One of the most powerful influences in my own life, Mr. Earl Shoaff. Mr. Shoaff was the kind of person who lifted me up, who saw potential in me that I didn't even see in myself at the time. He didn't tear me down or make me feel small. Instead, he challenged me to think bigger, to aim higher, and to believe that I could achieve great things. Being around someone like Mr. Shoaff changed the way I saw myself. And that's what you want in your life. You want to be around people who inspire you to be more, not less. But let's be real. Sometimes the people who drain your confidence are not easy to avoid. In those cases, you need to learn how to protect your energy. You don't have to absorb their negativity. When they start in with their doubts or criticisms, remind yourself that their words don't define you. Their perspective is just that. Their perspective. It's not the truth about who you are or what you're capable of. Keep your focus on your goals and surround yourself with people who reinforce that positive vision. One of the best decisions you can make for your confidence is to actively seek out mentors, friends, and peers who are where you want to be or who are on the same journey of growth. When you surround yourself with people who are striving for greatness, it rubs off on you. You start to see new possibilities, and you start to believe in yourself at a higher level because you're in an environment where success is the expectation, not the exception. So here's my challenge for you. Take a close look at your circle. Are the people around you building you up or tearing you down? Are they helping your confidence grow or causing it to shrink? If they're not supporting you, it's time to make some adjustments. You deserve to be surrounded by people who believe in you, who celebrate your wins, and who encourage you to keep going, even when things get tough. And when you create that kind of environment, you'll be amazed at how much your confidence can grow. Next mistake, not taking care of yourself. Confidence isn't just a mental game, it's a physical one too. If you're not taking care of your body, if you're neglecting your health, it's going to show up in your confidence. Your physical well-being is the foundation for everything else. And when you don't feel good physically, it's hard to feel good mentally and emotionally. Think about it. How do you feel when you're tired, run down, or out of shape? It's hard to stand tall, look people in the eye, and project confidence when you're not feeling your best. On the other hand, when you're taking care of yourself, when you're eating right, exercising, getting enough rest, it changes everything. You have more energy, more clarity, and more strength to face life's challenges. Confidence starts with how you feel in your own skin. Now, I'm not saying you need to have the perfect body or be in the gym 5 days a week to have confidence. That's not what this is about. It's about self-respect. When you take care of your body, you're telling yourself, I'm worth it. I deserve to feel good. And that message, just like negative self-talk, affects your mind. It reinforces a positive self-image, which is key to building confidence. Here's something I've learned over the years. Your body is your vehicle through life. It's the only one you've got. And if you don't maintain it, everything else suffers. Now, I know life gets busy, and sometimes taking care of yourself can feel like just another task on a long to-do list. But I'm here to tell you, it's not optional. It's essential. You can't be your best self if you're running on empty. One of the most common excuses I hear is, I just don't have time. And I get it. We're all busy. But here's the thing. You make time for what's important. If you don't make time for your health now, you'll be forced to make time for illness later. And let me tell you, illness will wreck your confidence faster than anything else. When you're not healthy, when you're constantly tired or in pain, your world shrinks. It's harder to think big, to take risks, and to put yourself out there when you're just trying to make it through the day. So what does taking care of yourself look like? It's not just about hitting the gym or eating salads. It's about creating balance in your life. It's about making sure you're getting enough sleep, managing stress, staying hydrated, and fueling your body with the right nutrients. It's about moving your body in a way that feels good to you. The key is to find something that works for you and stick with it. So, what's the first step? Start small. You don't have to overhaul your entire life overnight. The important thing is to start. Every positive step you take toward taking care of yourself builds momentum. And with that momentum comes confidence. Here's the bottom line. Confidence is about feeling good in your own skin. So make your health a priority, not just because it will make you look better or live longer, but because it will make you feel better. And when you feel better, you show up in the world with more confidence, more energy, and more presence. Next, procrastination. Procrastination doesn't just waste your time. It slowly erodes your confidence. When you put things off, especially the important things, it creates a sense of unease. Deep down, you know you're not doing what you should be doing. And that nagging feeling can turn into self-doubt. You see, procrastination isn't just about laziness. It's often about fear. Fear of failure, fear of making mistakes, or even fear of success. We avoid tasks because they seem overwhelming, or because we're worried we won't do them perfectly. And what happens? We push them off until the last minute, or sometimes we don't do them at all. And then the guilt sets in. And with that guilt comes a hit to our self-esteem. It's a vicious cycle. The more we procrastinate, the worse we feel about ourselves, and the worse we feel, the more we procrastinate. Look, I've seen highly talented, capable people hold themselves back in life because of procrastination. It wasn't that they lacked the skills or the intelligence to succeed. It was simply that they couldn't overcome the habit of putting things off. And it's a habit, one that can be broken, but only if you face it head on. Here's what happens when you procrastinate. You're giving yourself a message, whether you realize it or not. You're telling yourself that you don't trust yourself to handle the task, that you're not up to the challenge. And that message seeps into your confidence. The more you procrastinate, the more you start to believe that you can't rely on yourself to get things done. And that, my friends, is a confidence killer. Because confidence is built on trust. Trust in yourself to follow through, to take action, and to handle what needs to be handled. Now, one of the biggest lies we tell ourselves when we procrastinate is, I'll feel more like doing it tomorrow. But look, tomorrow never comes. If you don't feel like doing it today, chances are you're not going to feel like doing it tomorrow either. So what happens? You keep putting it off, and the task grows larger and larger in your mind until it feels overwhelming. It's like a snowball rolling down a hill, getting bigger and more intimidating with each passing day. And by the time you finally get around to it, you're stressed, rushed, and not doing your best work. That's not how you build confidence. So, how do you break the cycle of procrastination? It starts with taking action. Small action. You don't have to tackle the whole mountain at once. Just take one step. Do one small thing. Because here's the truth. Action is the antidote to procrastination. Once you start moving, even if it's just a little bit, you build momentum. And with that momentum comes a sense of accomplishment. Here's what I do. It's called the 2-minute rule. If a task is going to take less than 2 minutes, do it right away. Don't let it sit on your to-do list, taking up mental space. Just knock it out. It's amazing how much confidence you can build by simply checking things off your list, even the small stuff. And for the bigger tasks, break them down. Don't try to tackle everything at once. Take the first step, then the next. And before you know it, you've made significant progress. Here's the key. Confidence comes from action. Every time you take action, you're reinforcing the belief that you can trust yourself, that you're capable, that you're someone who gets things done. And that's how you build lasting confidence, by proving to yourself, day in and day out, that you can follow through. So my challenge to you is this. The next time you catch yourself procrastinating, take one small step. Just one. It doesn't matter how small it is. Just do something. And then keep going. Build that momentum. Remember, the longer you wait, the bigger the task becomes in your mind. But the sooner you take action, the sooner you'll see that you're capable of handling it. And that's what builds confidence. Knowing that you can trust yourself to take action, no matter what. Next. One of the biggest mistakes that I see people make is not setting clear goals. Now, this might seem like an obvious one, but it's more powerful than most people realize. One of the biggest confidence killers out there is drifting through life without clear, specific goals. You see, when you don't have a direction, when you're not aiming at something, it's easy to feel lost. And when you're lost, it's hard to feel confident. Confidence grows when you know where you're going and have a plan to get there. Without that sense of direction, it's easy to feel uncertain, unsure of yourself, and eventually you start questioning your abilities. Think about it. How do you feel when you wake up in the morning and you don't really know what you're working toward? When there's no target in sight, no specific goal pulling you forward? It's easy to fall into a pattern of just going through the motions, doing the minimum to get by. And over time, that lack of purpose starts to wear on your confidence because you're not growing, you're not progressing. You're just coasting, and that leaves you feeling stagnant. Now, on the other hand, how do you feel when you've got a clear goal in mind? When you wake up in the morning, knowing exactly what you need to do and why you're doing it. That's when your energy shifts. You feel motivated, driven, and excited about what's ahead. And every time you take a step toward that goal, your confidence gets a little boost. You start to believe in yourself more because you can see the progress you're making. That's the power of having a clear goal. It gives you something to aim for, something to measure yourself against. Here's the thing. Without clear goals, it's easy to lose focus. And when you lose focus, you start to drift. Nothing destroys confidence faster than drifting. It's like being on a boat with no destination in mind, just hoping you'll end up somewhere good. But hoping is not a strategy. If you want to build confidence, you need to take control of the ship and set a course for where you want to go. And that starts with clear, specific goals. Now, a lot of people don't set goals because they're afraid of failing. They think, what if I don't reach it? What if I fall short? But here's the truth. Even if you don't hit the goal exactly as planned, you're still going to be miles ahead of where you were if you hadn't set it at all. Goals give you direction. They give you a purpose. And even when you fall short, the progress you make along the way builds confidence. It's the pursuit of the goal, the action, the effort that strengthens your belief in yourself. You see, goals give you a reason to push through the tough times. They give you something to look forward to, something that makes all the effort worthwhile. And when you're clear on what you're working toward, you stop second-guessing yourself so much. You stop wondering if you're on the right path because you know where you're going. And that certainty, that sense of direction, does wonders for your confidence. Now, I want to make one thing clear. Your goals don't have to be huge to build confidence. In fact, sometimes the smaller goals are the most powerful. Those little wins add up. And every time you achieve a goal, no matter how small, it sends a message to your brain. I can do this. I can set my mind to something and accomplish it. And that's how confidence is built, one small win at a time. Here's another thing to keep in mind. Goals need to be specific. Vague goals won't get you very far. You need to define what success looks like for you. What does happiness look like? How will you know when you've achieved it? The more specific you are, the easier it is to create a plan and measure your progress. And when you can measure your progress, you can see how far you've come, which boosts your confidence even more. So, here's my challenge for you. If you don't have clear goals right now, take some time to set them. Think about where you want to be in 6 months, a year, 5 years. What do you want to accomplish? What do you want your life to look like? And then break those big goals down into smaller, actionable steps. The clearer you are about what you want, the easier it will be to take action. And action is what builds confidence. Remember this. Confidence comes from knowing you're moving in the right direction, even if it's just one step at a time. Set your goals, make a plan, and take action. You'll be amazed at how quickly your confidence grows when you know where you're going and how you're going to get there. So those are the 8 most common mistakes that people make that can quietly but steadily undermine their confidence. And here's the important part. Each of these mistakes can be corrected. That's the beauty of it. You can turn things around. Confidence isn't something you're born with or something that stays fixed. It's something you build moment by moment, choice by choice. Think about it. How many of these mistakes are present in your life right now? But here's the key takeaway. Confidence isn't something that happens to you. It's something you create. Every time you make a choice that strengthens your belief in yourself, you're building confidence. When you stop comparing yourself to others and start focusing on your own journey, when you stop seeking approval and start trusting your own voice, you're building confidence. When you face your fear of failure, when you take care of your body, when you stop procrastinating and take action, when you set clear goals and start moving toward them step by step, you're building confidence. It's all within your control. Confidence isn't some elusive quality that only a few people have. It's available to anyone who's willing to do the work, to make the changes, and to show up for themselves every single day. Remember this. Confidence comes from action. It comes from doing the things that scare you, from proving to yourself that you can handle life's challenges, from living in alignment with your values and your goals. It's not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about showing up, even when you're unsure, and trusting that you'll figure it out along the way. So I want you to commit to one thing. Take action. Even if it's a small step, take it. Because every time you do, you're telling yourself, I can do this. I am capable. And that's how confidence is built. One small step at a time. You've got everything you need within you to become the most confident version of yourself. The only question is, will you take that first step?